Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the new CJRB Mica, or Mica. I'm not honestly 100% sure how we pronounce that. You can pronounce it however you want. It looks like what you would assume the mini pyrite would look like, but actually it's not called the pyrite. The mini pyrite looks like this, apparently exclusively. Now, not with these colors, right? These are just like a fancy, but the profile here, right? These will be linked down below. They are available, by the way, even in these wild colors, I think. So I'll link this stuff down below. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to Artisan Cutlery for providing these knives for review. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. So yeah, just to get the confusion out of the way, this is actually the Mica or Mica, and this is the mini pyrite. Now you can see there they are just slightly different in terms of overall length and handle profile, but it kind of looks like, you know, the mini pyrite is kind of like the mini version of specifically this blade shape of the original medium-sized pyrite, which comes with both this blade shape and this blade shape, right? Just elongated. So a little bit of confusion there that definitely got me too, but hopefully that makes sense now. This is definitely a small knife. Let's go ahead and measure it. Overall length is coming in at about 5.5 inches. The blade length is coming in at a little over 2 1/4, 2.3. Cutting edge is coming in at 2 inches on the dot. I'm just measuring again to make sure it's really 5.5. Yeah, it is. Okay. Size comparisons, real quick. Once again, we're going to put it up against the CJRB actual mini pyrite. As you can see there, blade length is a little shorter. Cutting edge is almost identical. It's really just the overall handle length there. How about, there's really no reason to do any larger size knives. Let's put it up against the Civivi Elementum, the Spyderco Para 3. There we go. How about up against the Ontario Wrap Model 2? Up against the original pyrites, up against the Demco AD 20.5. I don't have a lot of teeny tiny knives to compare it to, so this is the best that I can give you here. How's the action? That's a big thing with a little tiny knife, right? The pivot action is completely fine. In fact, as long as you push that button, it will fall, and that works. A little bit of an issue finding the right place to brace the knife up against your palm and then find the right leverage point. It's not so much once you get there, you'll be okay. You can also reverse flick it. It's just kind of finagling the knife to get it into position. But honestly, it's not bad. For how little of a knife it is, it'll work. If you're just looking, sometimes that'll happen. I almost like threw the whole knife up out of my hand like this, right? So you really have to hold on to it and then fire it, right? Now you can also push the button and just sort of whip the blade out, which is what I'm sure a lot of people will do, right? But this is not really like a tactical all-purpose knife, obviously. This is something that you carry in your pocket for just mild convenience in the office or somewhere where maybe a larger knife is just inappropriate, or you just don't want to weigh yourself down. Carry profile, thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It is quite a bit thinner than the Spyderco Para 3. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. There's really no reason to do this. I think you guys could probably deduce on your own that this is going to be an incredibly easy knife to carry. In fact, it's so compact, you might actually forget that it's in your pocket. So check before you throw the pants in the washing machine. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. So we're going to try a T8 for the pivot, which I'm almost certain is the case, yes. And then unfortunately, we still have T6 screws down here. Now, just because it's a smaller knife doesn't mean that it has to have smaller hardware. We could still use T8 on these and it would have been better, but it's not that big of a deal. We have 2 screws on each side and 2 screws for the pocket clip, and they also allowed for a lefty pocket clip mounting position, so lefties, you can flip that clip over and you'll be fine. Honestly, it should be very easy to take apart and put back together. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Where's my scale today? The scale is very well hidden underneath the mouse pad. I don't know why I do that subconsciously, as I hide that from myself. The weight on this guy is coming in at 1.76 ounces, which is obviously well within the 1-to-1 ratio there, so that's good. You kind of expect that of a smaller knife. And then your blade stock thickness, once again with the action thing, it's fine. I'm just saying it's hard to find that leverage initially, like especially when you're not thinking about it, so just expect that to be the case. Blade stock thickness on this guy is coming in at 85 thousandths, so we have a very thin, appropriately thin blade, so that's fine. All right, moving on here to the meat and potatoes. This is a knife that is essentially it's a 3.5 finger choke up knife, which is honestly kind of impressive. It's so small, you would think no way. In the standard grip, you can also get about 3 fingers, which is pretty crazy. I really wouldn't have guessed that. Now with the choked up grip though, it's a fairly roomy choil, even for such a tiny knife. I got my pinky slipping off the end here, not quite, but not bad. I don't know how often you're really going to need to use a knife this small like this. Most of the time, I feel like I'm going to be using it like this. I'm going to be using it like this to cut open a package, right? Which it'll do. It'll do just fine. But if you want to choke up and you really want those melty ergonomics, you just want to feel them, then it's got them. And you know what? Because of this choil, the thumb stud's not in the cutting path. So I think that's fine. The lines on the handle, it's literally like the pyrite. It's just like compressed, right? This is the Ultim version, and it looks okay. I wish that they would have textured or done something a little bit different with the Ultim. You know, like Civivi, how they're doing theirs with these like textured lines, and this is just kind of like cloudy. It looks okay. But listen, the Ultim version, for some reason, CJRB, come on, costs like $25 more than the standard one. And all these companies, if you're new and you're like, oh wow, Ultimate must be something special. It's not. It's not. But companies are going to, while they can get away with it, kind of pretend like it is. So come on, $10 more for Ultim is fine, right? But $25, no. Ultim is not special, guys. You can get the standard version in aluminum for substantially less. So that's what I'm going to recommend. And in this case, I'm just being honest. The way they did this Ultim just doesn't look very good, right? It's fine. It'll work. It just doesn't look good. Their aluminum looks much better. The edges, very nicely knocked down. No hot spots or anything like that. They have like a copper lanyard barrel back here, which is interesting. They just add that as a little accent. Blade shape, simple, tiny, stubby drop point blade. We have AR RPM 9, which is great. That's a powder formed steel. Probably the only you're going to see consistently at this price point, and that's exactly what it was designed to be. Essentially a powder version of 9CR 18MOV that can be used on budget knives, which is really, really great. Satin finish on this drop point blade. It's a simple, very thin drop point blade, and it's very thin behind the edge. It will poke, it will cut. You don't have a ton of cutting edge, but you know, hey, you got that fidget factor. It's more fun than a box cutter, right? And it does. I mean, it works. It's just a little awkward because it's so tiny. A couple of standoffs back here, and like I said, the lanyard barrel pocket clip can be mounted on either, you know, for the right or left-handed carry. I'm glad that they went with a super duper short clip. There's a little bit of a bill, but not much. Honestly, the clip is pretty good. I really don't have a problem with that, and they did recess the pocket clip screws, which is nice. In and out of the pocket is also very easy. Really, the number one thing carrying this is going to be just remembering that it's there. It is so lightweight, it's so tiny, so compact. People are going to forget that it's there. You're right. The blade has a ton of shouldering and wraps nicely around that traditionally placed stop pin. There is no blade play up, down, left, or right because this is a button lock, and because for some reason now in 2023, and honestly, it's probably not just now. Probably button locks in general have always had this general problem. Some companies can do these right, and some can't. CJRB tends to be able to do this fine. Trying to give it some extra strength there because it's such a short blade. No disengagement, no problem. I have never had a problem. Whoops. Bumped the camera mount with the gauntlet there. I have never had a problem with CJRB's button locks. They've always worked just fine, and this seems to be exactly the same. Still no blade play, no button lock stick. We have no, well, you know what? We do have a tiny little bit of pivot lash. Some people could say that's because you just whacked the spine. No, I felt it before with CJRBs. Not a big deal. Pivot lash doesn't mean anything, and it's not going to cause a problem. It's just something that I don't like to feel because it means that the tolerances are ever so slightly off within the pivot. But again, right, no big deal. The detent strength, which it is the plunge lock acting as the detent, and it's pretty good. It's not bad at all. Centering, is this guy? No, that guy's absolutely spot on, so that's nice. Very good. All right. Base price of this knife is about 45 bucks. How do I know that? As of this recording, I mean, when you guys are seeing it, I don't know, but the day that I'm recording this is on November 29th or something like that. And so there's still like Black Friday deals lingering around. So Artisan Color on their own website has it knocked down to 42. Blade HQ had these on sale for 40 bucks. Knife Center is not, indicating any sale at all. And they're listing the basic models at $45 or $45.99. So that's what you're looking at here. Do I think that's a good price? Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, yeah, it's a lot smaller than the standard Pyrite. So should we reduce the price by the percentage smaller that it is? No. I know that some people think that mathematically that would be correct, but that's not how that works. So $45, I don't really have a problem with that. It's still a budget knife. It's still right there. It would have been cooler at $39.99, sure, but I can't really get too upset. You have to really like tiny knives. And truthfully, while this is fine, right? I'm going to put it in my cheap knives I like playlist, but I'm not going to also put it in like full on recommended. And here's why. I think for most people, getting a knife that's a little bit bigger and a little bit easier to operate is just going to be the better option. If you just absolutely love tiny knives, that's fine. This is for you. But I think a better option for the vast majority of people is a knife that's big enough, not huge, but just bigger than this. Honestly, I think the regular Pyrite is still a better knife. I mean, it's still plenty lightweight, but it's also large enough that it's going to work better with the average person's hand, and it's therefore safer and easier to manipulate, right? So you can buy this if you need a small pocket knife or you love a small pocket knife. You can pick this up and rest assured that it is very high quality, and I think the price is all right. But generally speaking, if you're looking for my honest recommendation, go a little bit bigger. It doesn't have to be the Pyrite, but get something a little bit bigger because they're just flat out easier to manipulate and definitely a little bit safer. So that's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Short and sweet, just like this knife. Well, that's a lame joke. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.